Okay, Unit 8, Day 7, the law of cosines. So the law of cosine is something we're going to use when the law of sines won't work, and I'll give you a couple examples of like where the law of sines won't work on a problem with triangles. So just to review what the law of sines is, it's this thing. It's just saying that the ratio between the sine of an angle and the side opposite that angle is equal to any other angle, or the ratio between any other angle and the side opposite of that angle. And we used it to solve problems yesterday involving triangles where we only had partial information. We used it to find the rest of the stuff. But what if I tried to use it on this triangle right here? What would I do? Well, first of all, what do I want to know here? It wants to know if I can find side B. So I'm going to put that side B right here in a different color. That's what I want to know. I don't know that yet, but I want to. What information do I have that could help me? Remember, I need at least 2 of these ratios. I need information from at least 3 of these 4 things in order to solve this problem. Okay, so B is what I want to know. Angle B, I know, so that's good. And then side A, I know, because side A is the side across from angle A. The problem is that I'm kind of stuck here, right? I'm out of information at this point. Oh, I know side C. It's 5. Okay, now I'm out of information. I don't have at least 3 things between any 2 of these ratios, right? In order to solve this problem using the law of sines, I would either need the sine of angle A, which I don't have angle A for, or angle C, and I don't have angle C. So I can't use the law of sines to solve for angle B right here. So I'm kind of stuck on that one. What about this one? I just rewrote the law of sines down here. What if I wanted to find one of these angles? Let's say I wanted to find angle A. Okay, so I want to find angle A. Actually, I'm going to do that in a different color because I don't know angle A. I want to find angle A. What information do I actually have to help me find it? Well, the only things I know down here are all 3 side lengths. So I know side A is 16, side B is 9, and side C is 10. But I don't know any other angles inside of this triangle. Okay, so to use the law of sines on this one, I would need to know at least one of these other angles, and I don't. So I can't use the law of sines on this one either. That's why we're going to talk about this thing called the law of cosines. And it looks really complicated. It's really just a matter of plugging in numbers. These 3 equations are basically the law of cosines. The reason there's 3 of them is because we're going to use a different one for each problem depending on what information we're given, right? And you'll see how once I do an example down here. So let's say I have this triangle right here. I think it's the same one from the last page, and I want to solve for angle B. Not angle B, sorry. I want to solve for side B. First thing I'm going to do is write down the information that I have. So I know side A is equal to 7. Side B is the one I want to find, so I don't really know anything about that yet. Side C is 5. And angle B is 36 degrees. Come up here and look to see which one I want to use. Okay, I know A, I know C, and I know angle B. So I'm going to use this middle one. I'm going to use this middle formula right here. So I'm going to write it down here kind of small. B squared equals A squared plus C squared minus 2AC cosine B. And I know that's a lot of stuff. But like I said before, it's just a matter of plugging things in and solving for what we need to know. So B squared, B is what I'm looking for, so I'm going to leave that alone. But now I can start plugging things in. So A is 7. So if I square 7, I get 49. C is 5. When I square 5, I get 25. Minus 2 times A times C. So 2 times 5 times 7. So I'm going to do that on the calculator really quick. 2 times 5 times 7 is 70. Times the cosine of B. So I'm just going to move one step ahead and simplifying this. 49 plus 25 is 74 minus 70 times the cosine of angle B, which is 36. So I need to find the cosine of 36. Let's call it 0.81. So 74 minus 70 times 0.81. 56.7. All right, so b squared equals 74 minus 56.7. 17.3. Okay, I'm not done because I want to know what b is. So I'm going to have to take the square root of both of these. Square root of 17.3 is going to be whatever b is. So square root of it, let's call it 4.16. Okay, so side b right here would be 4.16 units long. Example 2, like we had on the last page. This is that one where all I have are side lengths. I don't know any angles inside of the triangle. So let's say I want to find an angle, and I could find all three, but I'm just going to do one, for example, right here. So, well, let's find angle A. Let's find angle A. So what information do I already have? Well, I know all three sides. I know A is 16, B is 9, and C is 10. Okay, it's going to work a little bit differently this time, but I'm going to come up here, I'm going to say, well, which one do I want to use? So when you know all three sides, you can use any of these three. It doesn't really matter, so I'll just use the first one. If I want to find angle A, I'm going to use the first one. Because that's what I eventually want to get by itself is angle A. Right, but I could start from any of these three. I could start by finding angle B or angle C, but since right now I'm going to solve for angle A, I'm going to use this first one. So A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cosine angle A. It's a lot of stuff, but again, it's not hard to fill in. So A, do I know A? Yes. A is 16, so I'm going to square 16. It's 256 equals B squared. B is 9. I know 9 squared is 81. C is 10. I know 10 squared is 100. Times 2 times B times C. So 2 times 9 is 18. Times 10 is 180. Times the cosine of angle A. So I have to leave that like this because I don't know what angle A is yet. Okay, so 256 equals, well, 81 plus 100 is just 181 minus 180 cosine of A. I'm going to subtract 181 from both sides. So 256 minus 181 is 75 equals negative 180 cosine A. All right, so what I'm doing right now is I'm saying negative 180 times cosine A, so I'm going to divide both sides by negative 180. So I'm going to do a decimal on the left-hand side. 75 divided by, it would be negative 0.416 equals cosine of angle A. All right, now is when I'm going to do the second function thing. So I want second function cosine negative 0.416. Enter. Again, my keys are going to be a little bit different than yours. So negative 0.416, negative 0.416, and then I want the inverse cosine of that. So angle A, calculator's telling me, is 114.58 degrees. And there's my answer. All right, an example using the law of cosines. Amelia ran 6 miles in one direction. So she starts, let's say she starts right here, and she runs 6 miles. Then she turns 79 degrees. So she turns 79 degrees and runs 7 miles. So she turned 79 degrees here and ran 7 miles. And then apparently she stops right there. So it wants to know when she's done, how far is Amelia from her starting point? In other words, what is that length right there? What is the blue line? What is X right here? Well, the easiest way to start this problem is going to be to label the three vertices of the triangle ABC, figure out what information I know, and then pick one of the three formulas from the law of cosines to use. So I know that, let's see, side A is 7. I know that angle B is 79. And I know that side C is 6. So I know side A and C, and I know angle B. So I'm going to go back to that table. I know side A and C and angle B. So I'm going to use this middle one here. Use this middle one. So B squared is what starts it. So it's going to be B squared equals A squared plus C squared minus 2AC cosine B. Okay, now we start plugging things in. I'm going to kind of scooch over here. B, this is what I'm looking for right here. B squared equals, okay, A is 7, so it's going to be 49 because it's B or A squared. C squared, so C is 6, so C squared is 36. Minus 2 times A times C, so 2 times 7 is 14. 14 times 6, I'm going to use a calculator. 84 times the cosine of 79 degrees. Okay, so B squared equals 49 and 36 is 85 minus 84 times cosine of 79 is 0.19. So B squared equals 85 minus 84 times 0.19. 16 point, let's say 03. Okay, so I'm going to scoot over here. B squared equals 85 times, or 85 minus 16.03. 68.97. Last step to find B is to take the square root of both sides. All right, so the square root of B squared is just B. Square root of 68.97 is about 8.3. In other words, if Amelia ran 6 miles, turned 79 degrees and ran another 7 miles, she would have 8.3 miles to run or walk or drive or whatever to get back home. All right, next word problem. Actually, the last one for today's video. Triangular cross-country course has side lengths of 1.8 kilometers, 2 kilometers, and 1.2 kilometers. Okay, and so I know all three sides of this triangle, but I don't know any of the angles inside. Okay, so I'm going to label the vertices A, B, and C, and I'm going to start figuring out what the angles are. What I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to find 2 of the angles, and then I'm just going to subtract those 2 angles from 180 to figure out the third angle. Okay? But to figure out the 2 angles that I start with, I'm going to have to use the law of cosines. So let's start with angle A. Let's figure out angle A. So I want angle A, so I'm going to go back to the table. And when I want angle A, I'm going to use this first formula. So A squared is going to equal B squared plus C squared minus 2BC times the cosine of angle A. It's a mouthful. So A squared is equal to B squared plus C squared minus 2BC times cosine of A. And this A on the end, that's what I'm actually going for. That's what I eventually want to get by itself. But I have to plug all the other numbers in and get that by itself before I can actually use the inverse trig function to find angle A. So what is A? Well, A is 2, so 2 squared is 4. B is 1.2, so I have to figure out what 1.2 squared is. Oops. 1.44. And C squared. C is 1.8, so I have to square that now. 3.24. Minus 2 times B times C. So B and C are 1.2 and 1.8. So 2 times 1.2 times 1.8. Equals 3.11 times the cosine of angle A. All right, so 4 equals 1.44 plus 3.24. Oops. .68 minus 3.11 cosine of A. I'm going to subtract 4.68 from both sides. 4 minus 4.68 is just going to be negative 0.68 equals negative 3.11 times the cosine of angle A. Right now I have 3.11 times the cosine of angle A. I want to get this by itself, so I'm going to have to divide both sides by negative 3.11. So on the left I'm going to have negative 0.68 divided by negative 3.11. So I'm going to end up with a positive. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. 0.68 divided by 3.11 is 0.218. Let's call this 0.22 equals the cosine of A. Okay, so now is when I can, once I get to this point where the only thing I have on one side of the equation is a trig function of some angle, now is when I do the second cosine 0.22, enter. That's what it looks like on your calculator. Again, mine's going to look a little different. So I want to know the inverse cosine. Whoops. So angle A is going to be 77.3 degrees. Okay, I'm going to actually move that. You can leave it where you wrote it. 77.3 degrees. Okay, I'm going to do something similar to find angle B now. For angle B, it's going to be similar to this formula up here, but what I want at the end is the cosine of B. So I'm going to go back to the table. So now, since I'm looking for angle B, I'm going to use this formula right here. So B squared equals A squared plus C squared minus 2AC cosine B. B squared equals A squared plus C squared minus 2AC cosine B. Okay. Got to do some math again. B squared. I'm just going to go back over here. I remember B squared is 1.44. And I remember A squared is 4. C squared was 3.24. 2AC. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 1.8. 7.2 times the cosine of B. 1.44 equals 4 plus 3.24. That's going to be 7.24 minus 7.2 cosine of B. Subtract 7.24 from both sides. So 1.44 minus 7.24 is negative 5.8. Equals negative 7.2 cosine B. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 7.2. And so, because again, I'm dividing a negative by a negative, I'm going to get a positive. So I want 5.8 divided by 7.2. Let's just call that 0.81 equals the cosine of b. So now I'm going to do the inverse cosine of 0.81, which is going to look like this. Inverse cosine of 0.81, 35.9. So angle B is 35.9 degrees. All right, since I know angles A and B, angle C plus 77.3 plus 35.9, those three angles together have to add up to 180 because I'm still talking about a triangle here. So angle C plus these two added together, so 77.3 plus 35.9 plus 113.2 equals 180. So now I just subtract 113.2 from both sides, and I'm almost done. Angle C equals 180 minus 113.2. 66.8. Okay, so I have angle A, B, and C in this triangle starting from only knowing side lengths.